Hi, Quinn Redeker, Police Motor Training. Today I'm going to briefly explain and demonstrate for you the two different techniques primarily that people use when they're cornering a motorcycle. There is a counterbalance or counterweighting technique where we're taking our rider's weight and putting it on the outside of the motorcycle's lean angle, or a leaning or road racing technique where we're putting our body weight on the inside of the motorcycle's mass as it's leaning over. What that essentially looks like is this. So right now, me and the motorcycle are in line with each other, okay? The motorcycle's mass is straight, the center line is here, my body's center line is here. As the motorcycle falls over, I can go one of two ways. I can counterlean or counterbalance, or I can lean and bring my weight onto the inside of the motorcycle. Those are the two different techniques. In police motor schools, where we do a lot of slow speed techniques, they primarily teach counterbalancing, and so a lot of guys think that that's kind of set it and forget it and use it in all scenarios. There are some limitations that I'm going to show you here in a minute where you might want to think about using a road race or lean in technique. Now, there are two reasons primarily for each technique, and there are two different situations that you would use those in. Let's just cover those really quick. So think about this for a sec. This will make it easier in your brain, I think. When I'm counterbalancing, I am more or less staying up here and I'm letting the motorcycle drop around, sort of flop. Now, two advantages to that when I'm going slow. One is, as the motorcycle leans over, the further it goes, the tighter the radius it will turn. And when I'm going slow and I want to turn a tight circle or a U-turn, that's a huge benefit. The other advantage for me is, as I counterbalance, as the motorcycle starts falling over, because I'm going slow, gravity really takes hold of the bike. But because I'm counterbalancing, as it starts to fall, it falls over a little bit slower and a little bit more controlled. So I have a slower, more controlled drop that's a greater drop for my lean angle. All those things are advantageous for slow speed. The other real big advantage too, really kind of a side note, is that in off-road scenarios, really bad traction, you're on a gravel road, being on top of the motorcycle helps if you lose traction. You're not going to just hit the deck, okay? Off-road guys know that, dirt track racers know that. You sit up on top of the bike and kind of let the bike dance around underneath you. So that's great. The problem with doing that, the challenge with doing that at higher speeds is when you're really trying to turn a motorcycle at high speeds, it needs greater lean angles. So as we're going faster and faster and the bike's leaning more and more, we start dragging hard parts. So the problem there is I'm counterbalancing, now I'm dragging hard parts. Once this thing starts dragging hard parts, I either have to slow down or I have to get that motorcycle up off the ground, because I can't go any faster doing whatever I'm doing if it's counterbalancing. All that's going to happen is I'm going to pick up speed and just bury the bike into the ground, and it'll eventually lever the tires. And what happens in that case, the tires start to lose traction and the bike kind of just plows. So if it had a nice smooth arc, it'll just sort of at some point start going straight until it slows down enough and picks itself back up, or you crash, which isn't great. But why would we want to get away from counterbalance? Well, because now if I can get my weight to the inside of the motorcycle, I can get the motorcycle up here. So here's the difference. Bike's flopping over counterbalanced, right? Or the bike stays more or less upright and I move around side to side with the objective of keeping the motorcycle more straight up and down. I get better traction because I'm in the sweet spot of the tires all the time. I'm not leaned over, cranked, living on the edge of the tire. And I have plenty of ground clearance. If I have ground clearance, that means a few things. One, I can go faster if I need to. If this is a race, I want to go faster, right? The second thing is, if I'm not in a race and I'm in a canyon and there's a problem up ahead, I can now turn a tighter radius because I have ground clearance. If I'm dragging hard parts, I cannot turn any tighter. So I'm going to ride this really quick and just show you exactly what it looks like and what it sounds like. We're going to counterbalance and see at what speed I start dragging hard parts and I can't go any faster. And then we're going to switch techniques from a counterbalance style to a lean in or road race style during that scenario, and let's see if it doesn't actually help us out and create some better situations for us. All right, I'm going to counterbalance, okay? So counterbalancing is great. I can turn a nice tight radius. Just what we want, okay? We want to turn a nice tight radius. This is where I would counterbalance, nice and slow. And as I mentioned, so if I'm straight up and down, let's just take a look here. If I'm straight up and down, full lock, I'm not quite straight up and down, but I'm turning a pretty big circle. Now let's see how tight we can get this circle if we start leaning the motorcycle over. All right. Pretty far. Let's see if we can drag any pegs. Close. Close. I think I hear something. Let's try a little more here. There we go. Whew. So that radius is pretty tight. So we cannot turn that radius. As you can see, we're falling way out of that line with the wheels locked, and I'm straight up and down. I cannot turn that tight. We just saw how tight we could turn counterbalancing, nice and tight. But let's see what happens. I'm going to click second gear and counterbalance some more. And let's see what happens. I'm going nice smooth circle. I'm going 20, 22. Dragging hard parts at 22. So this is it. About as, whew. So at about 22 miles an hour, I started dragging the foot peg, and then I started dragging the crash bar. And as soon as that happened, the bike started trying to go straight. Let's continue where we left off. Second gear. All right, we're in second gear. We're counterbalancing because it seems to be working everywhere else. And we're going, how fast are we going? We'll do a nice smooth arc. We're going 24 miles an hour. And there we go, we're dragging hard parts at 25. So that's as fast as I can go right now. I'm dragging the peg. But what happens if I move my weight to the inside now? Now I'm moving my weight out here. I've just traded. Now I'm going 27, 28. So now I can go 28 miles an hour. Let's go back to where we were. Now we're going 25. That was the crash bar right there. So that's not great. So a question would be, how do I take advantage of both of those techniques rather than saying which one's best? Well, that's easy to me. First gear, I counterbalance. I'm throwing the bike around. But once I click second gear, my weight starts to move over here. If I'm going to slow down, counterbalance. Nice and smooth. So counterbalance, nice and tight stuff. Up, now I'm going to pick up the speed, click in second gear. My weight's on the inside of the bike now, so I can go faster. I'm going to slow down now. Counterbalance. So you can seamlessly move between both of these. You don't need to pick one. Pick both. I think both is the best way to go. They work great. They're easy to mix. Second gear, my weight's on the inside of the bike. Now I'm going to slow down and make a tight right. And I'm counterbalanced, nice and smooth. So just practice that. My weight's over here. Don't even shift gears. My weight's over here, and then a little tighter, Open it up a little tighter. A little faster, tight. So that's a great way to practice this. Counterbalance, oh, I'm gonna go faster, move my weight out here. Bring it in tight. Okay? And that's how you're going to use both of these.